welcome back to Shout Esports. I'm Jess BROHARD, and in this episode, we're going to take you through the hardware and equipment you need to build your production studio and start broadcasting. Now, there are thousands of different ways you can set up your studio, so it can seem a bit overwhelming, but it's also your chance to really make this your own. You can tailor your setup to your needs, your preferences, and your budget. Plus, there's so much you can do as far as future customization goes. You can either go all out now if you have it in the budget, or you can get the basics in place and then upgrade piecemeal as you see fit. So to start off, you'll need a PC. You can, of course, stream directly from your phone, tablet, PlayStation, or Xbox using the Twitch and YouTube apps, but there's a lot less you can do with overlays and transitions and such compared to streaming from a PC. And for those of you watching who are looking to become hosts or casters as well as content creators, you're going to need a way to edit and record video as well as streaming, so you'll need a PC anyway. Now, as far as desktop versus laptop, custom build versus pre-built, that all really doesn't matter so much, but most streaming platforms will recommend the following minimum specs: an Intel i5 series CPU or its AMD equivalent, the Ryzen 5, a GTX 1060 graphics card, and 8 gigs of RAM. Now that you have your streaming PC, you basically have three options for capturing your gameplay. You can play games on the same PC you're streaming from, you can use a dual PC setup, or you can do your gaming on a console. Those last two options will require the use of a capture card. Elgato is definitely the most common brand of capture cards. Their HD60S is a really strong go-to that I've personally used for a while now, and I cannot recommend it enough. You'll also want to make sure your internet speed is good enough and pay attention to that upload speed especially. Twitch, for instance, recommends a minimum of 3 megabits per second up, but that is a bare minimum, and in my experience, 10 or higher is usually better. Now let's talk about mics. Chances are you already have a headset with a built-in mic, but I strongly recommend getting a separate mic because the ones attached to headsets tend not to be the best sound quality. You can go the USB or XLR route, and both have their advantages. USB mics are really easy to plug and play, and I always love to suggest the Blue brand of microphones if you want to go this route. XLR mics, on the other hand, take a little more setup, but they have way more high-end options to choose from and overall tend to give you a better sound quality. However, they usually also require the use of an additional piece of equipment called an audio interface. Focusrite and Behringer are two popular brands to look at if you want to go this route. One more thing to consider is a mic arm. Some mics can be placed on your desk, but using an arm saves space on your desktop and lets you control the positioning of your mic so you can place it right in front of your mouth. Let's move on to cameras. You can go the plug-and-play USB webcam route, and if you do, I would check out Logitech or Razer's HD webcams, or you can really make your picture pop with a DSLR or mirrorless camera, which are typically used for still photography, but they can produce a really nice video feed. To connect these to your PC, you can either use a USB cable or what I recommend, HDMI. The reason that I recommend using HDMI to connect your DSLR or mirrorless camera to your PC is because USB compresses the video feed, so the quality is just not going to be as good as if it comes through an HDMI cable. However, since most PCs don't have an HDMI input, you'll also need an HDMI to USB converter, or in other words, Elgato makes one that has become the de facto standard among streamers called the Camlink. But to use this, make sure to check that your camera has what's called clean HDMI, meaning that it has a mode that you can go into where there isn't any on-screen data indicators like exposure info and battery percentage showing up on the video feed. You'll also need a way to keep your camera on for long periods of time, so you'll want to find an AC adapter, which is a little device that goes into your camera's battery slot and plugs into the wall to provide continuous power for your camera. Now that we have the streaming necessities out of the way, let's look at building out your content creation environment. What do you want your set to look like? What kind of content are you mainly producing? So a lot of creators have more of a room set up behind them. Maybe they have some shelves with figurines and plants and colored lights and other fun decorations. And this is a really neat way to give your viewers a glimpse into your world. They can connect to the little things they see in the background, like a poster of a show that you both like. I choose more of a neutral background because I host for a variety of companies and games, so I was constantly having to change all the branding in the background, so for me, it's easier to just have a neutral, unbranded background, and honestly, I just think string lights are really pretty. Another really popular option is a green screen. This creates a really cool look, your camera blocks less of the gameplay, and it's way more immersive. On the downside though, to chroma key, your lighting has to be perfect or it's gonna be kind of a hassle to do. And speaking of lighting, a lot of streamers use a ring light, which I really recommend using as part of a 3-point lighting setup. You can find guides online and mimic that configuration. Now that we have all the physical components, you're just about ready to begin. All you need is the software to go live. There are several options. The main 3 that I see people using are OBS, Streamlabs OBS, and XSplit, and they're all free. Also, you'll probably want some video editing software at the very least, so you can make a reel of your work. Now, I like Adobe Premiere quite a lot, but it's not free, but there are some free alternatives like Lightworks, Movie Maker Online, and iMovie if you're using an Apple OS. Well, that's everything you'll need, but I would be remiss not to tack on this note. Having a great camera and a high quality stream is nice, but it doesn't really matter too much if your content isn't good. Now, with so much competition out there, there's almost no excuse not to try to stand out with top of the line equipment, but don't conflate production value with producing a quality stream. You need to be entertaining, engaging, and energetic, even when viewership is low or zero, and I'll explain why next month. In the episode of Shout Esports that begins airing in January, we'll explore different creation philosophies and types of content, how to get over the just go live nerves, finding your niche, being interactive even when chat is slow, and getting into a streaming groove. Once again, I'm Jess BROHARD. You can find me on my social media at Jess BROHARD and hit me up there with any questions, or check out my daily streams at twitch.tv/Jess. I'll see you next time.